On my 65th birthday, I prepared dinner for 8 people. I bought fresh flowers, polished the silverware, baked a chocolate cake, and set a place card at every chair. No one came. At 8 o'clock, I discovered why. My son, his wife, my grandchildren, and even my own sister were on a Mediterranean cruise. They were smiling in photographs beneath a sunset, raising champagne glasses, and celebrating family time. I was not in a single picture. 3 days later, a stranger came to my door carrying a DNA test. He looked at me and said, "I believe your grandson is my son." That was the moment I understood my birthday had not been forgotten. I had been deliberately erased. Before I tell you how the truth came out, comment the name of your city below. And stay with me, because the DNA result was shocking. But what it revealed about my daughter-in-law was even worse. My name is Loretta Patterson. For 3 weeks, I planned my birthday dinner for Elliot, Meadow, Tommy, Emma, my sister Ruth, and her husband Carl. I set the table with the blue plates Robert had given me and wore a navy dress with pearl buttons. The color Elliot used to say made me look elegant. At 6:30, I was still alone, but I tried not to worry. At 7, I called Elliot. He did not answer. I called Meadow. Straight to voicemail. Ruth did not pick up either. By 8, the roast was cold, and the candles had burned nearly to their holders. I sat at the head of the table, staring at the empty chairs. The silence in the house did not feel peaceful. It felt deliberate, as if the walls knew something I did not. Then, I made the mistake of checking social media. The first photograph showed Meadow in a white sundress on the deck of a cruise ship. Elliot stood beside her, grinning broadly. Behind them was the deep blue Mediterranean Sea. The caption read, "Living our best life with the family. So grateful for this unforgettable getaway." The next pictures showed Tommy, Emma, Ruth, and Carl enjoying the ship. Everyone was there except me. The timestamp said the photographs had been posted an hour earlier, while I was sitting at my table waiting for them. My phone buzzed. A message from Elliot said, "Sorry, Mom. I forgot to tell you we'd be out of town." Meadow found a last-minute cruise deal. "Happy birthday. Forgot to tell me." That was how he described a family vacation that had been planned well enough for flights, cabins, passports, and matching beach clothes. I turned off the oven. I wrapped the cake. I blew out the candles and put the good china away one plate at a time. Then I looked at myself in the dark kitchen window. For 65 years, I had remembered birthdays, smoothed arguments, and made sure no one felt left out. Yet my family had chosen to celebrate without me. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I began remembering other occasions I had missed. Tommy's 4th birthday party. Meadow had told me the party was moved to the following day. When I arrived at the venue, I could see balloons through the window and hear children laughing inside. Emma's first day of kindergarten. Meadow had given me the wrong time, so I missed Emma walking into her classroom. Christmas dinner. I had been told Elliot wanted a small celebration because work had exhausted him. Later, Ruth accidentally mentioned the 20 people who had attended. A school play Meadow said had been canceled. A dance recital she called just a practice. A weekend visit changed at the last minute because the children were too tired. Each event seemed small by itself, but together they formed a pattern. Meadow's social media page confirmed it. Hundreds of family photographs with Elliot and the children everywhere, while I appeared only a few times at the edge. I remembered how Elliot and I had once spoken twice a week. After Meadow entered his life, our Sunday dinners became monthly. Then occasional, then phone calls so short I barely had time to ask how he was doing. Meadow never openly insulted me. She used softer phrases.
Your mother seems tired lately.
Maybe we shouldn't burden her with the children. Do you think she's managing well on her own? She made concern sound like kindness and distance sound like protection. By morning, I was heartbroken, but I was no longer confused. The birthday had not been an accident. A week later, someone rang my doorbell. Through the peephole, I saw a man in his 40s wearing a wrinkled coat. He looked as if he had driven through the night. His hands were buried in his pockets, and he kept looking over his shoulder. "Mrs. Patterson?" he called. "Yes? My name is David Chen. I need to talk to you about Meadow." I opened the door with the chain still attached. "What about her?" he swallowed. "I believe your grandson Tommy may be my son." I nearly closed the door. David quickly continued. "I know how this sounds. Please, just give me 10 minutes. Something in his face stopped me. He did not look dangerous. He looked terrified. I let him inside. He sat on the edge of my sofa, holding his hands together so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "Meadow and I were together for 2 years, he said. "This was before she met Elliot. We lived together. We talked about marriage. Then she became pregnant." I placed his coffee on the table. "I was thrilled," he continued. "I wanted to marry her immediately, but she kept saying she needed time. Then one evening, I came home and she was gone. Her clothes, her papers, everything. It was as if she had never lived there. He searched for months, filed a missing person report, and hired an investigator. Then, 3 months ago, he saw Meadow in Sacramento with a little boy who had his eyes, chin, and habit of tilting his head when concentrating. He showed me a photograph of himself at 7. The resemblance was undeniable. "I followed them from a distance," he said. "I did not want to frighten Tommy. I needed to be certain." "Why come to me?" I asked. David looked down at his phone. "Because I saw the cruise photographs. I saw the children, Elliot, Meadow, and your sister. You were missing from every picture." He looked directly at me. "I know what isolation looks like. Meadow did the same thing to me before she disappeared. She convinced me that my friends were against us, that my family did not understand her, and that I was too needy. She slowly made me dependent on her." My stomach tightened. "She is doing the same thing to Elliot," I whispered. "I think so. And I believe you were pushed away because you remember the timeline. You know when she met Elliot. You know when Tommy was born. If you stayed close, you might eventually ask questions." David reached into his coat and removed a plain envelope. "I had Tommy's DNA tested against mine," he said. "The results arrived yesterday." I stared at the envelope. Inside it was the truth about a child I had loved for 7 years. Before I opened it, David said, "I do not want to take Tommy away from Elliot. He raised him, and Tommy loves him. I want to know my son and protect him from whatever Meadow has been doing." That was when I understood that David was not asking me to choose between fathers. He was asking me to help stop a woman who had been turning people against one another for years. I opened the envelope. The result was printed in cold, clinical language. 99. 7% probability of paternity. I read it twice. Tommy was David's biological son. Elliot had been raising another man's child without knowing it. I thought about Tommy's first steps, the scraped knees I had bandaged, the bedtime stories he once asked me to read. None of that love became false because of DNA. But the lie surrounding it was real. David brought another folder. Meadow's real name was Margaret Winters, and she had been married twice before. Both marriages followed the same pattern: rapid attachment, isolation from family, control over money and social contact, then abandonment. "She has done this before," David said. I thought of Elliot's old friends disappearing, his work conversations becoming vague, his dependence on Meadow for every social decision. Then I remembered the birthday cruise. She did not merely forget me. She needed everyone to practice living without me. 3 days after the cruise, I called Elliot. "Come to dinner this Saturday," I said. "I want to talk about the future." There was a pause. I heard Meadow speaking in the background. "What kind of conversation?" Elliot asked. "An honest one." Meadow wanted to know whether I was angry about the cruise. I told Elliot I was not angry. That was not entirely true, but anger would have allowed Meadow to dismiss me as bitter. I needed the truth to stand on its own. David and I agreed that the children should not hear the first conversation. We would explain that Tommy was still Elliot's son in every way that mattered, while David deserved a place in his life. On Saturday, I cooked Elliot's favorite meal: pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, and green beans. Meadow arrived wearing a cream-colored dress and a perfect smile. Tommy ran through the door and hugged me. Emma followed with a doll in her arms. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then I noticed how Meadow interrupted the children. When Tommy began telling me that he had missed me on the cruise, she changed the subject. When Emma asked why I had not come, Meadow reminded her that they had been very busy. After dinner, I sent the children into the living room with a movie. The folder sat on the table between the adults. Elliot reached for Meadow's hand. "What did you want to discuss, Mom?" "Honesty," I said, "and the stories we tell to keep our families together." Meadow's smile tightened. I opened the folder and placed the DNA result on the table. "This is a paternity test for Tommy." Elliot stared at the paper. Meadow went completely still. "The result shows that you are not Tommy's biological father," I said gently. "David Chen is." Elliot's face emptied of color. Meadow stood so quickly that her chair scraped the floor. "This is insane," she said. "Loretta, you have lost your mind." "Sit down, Margaret." The name struck her like a physical blow. Elliot looked from her to me. "Who is Margaret?" I placed the investigator's documents beside the DNA result. "Meadow is not her real name. She was with David before she met you. She left him while pregnant, then married you before Tommy was born." "That is not true," she said, but her voice had begun to shake. Elliot picked up the report. He read the percentage once, then again. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked her. She started talking quickly. She said David was unstable. She said I had become jealous. She said the test was fabricated. But for the first time, her words did not control the room. Elliot looked at me. "The cruise." "My birthday." I said nothing. He turned to Meadow. "You planned that, didn't you?" She claimed she wanted to protect their family from my interference. "From my mother?" Elliot asked. "The woman who raised me?" "From someone who would destroy us," Meadow replied. "No," he said. "You were afraid she would discover the truth." From the living room came the sound of Tommy and Emma laughing. Elliot covered his face with both hands. "What do I tell Tommy?" he whispered. I reached across the table and held his hand. "You tell him that nothing about the love he has received is being taken away. You raised him. You are his father. David is his biological father, and he deserves a place in Tommy's life too." David stepped forward from the hallway. He had been waiting outside, giving us privacy. "I am not here to replace you," he told Elliot. "I am here because I should have known my son. If you allow it, I want to help raise him with you." Elliot looked at him for a long time. Then he nodded. Meadow tried to leave with the children. I stopped her at the door. "Margaret," I said, "you will not use Tommy or Emma to punish the adults. If you run, threaten them, or manipulate them, the evidence will go to the authorities and the court." For the first time, she had no polished answer. She left without one. The months that followed involved lawyers, counseling, and painful conversations. Tommy was confused, and Emma feared losing more people. We explained the truth without asking the children to carry adult guilt. Meadow eventually relinquished custody rather than face prosecution for fraud and identity deception. She disappeared again, just as she had disappeared from David's life years earlier, but this time she did not take the children with her. Elliot moved back into the house. David rented an apartment 10 minutes away. We created a schedule, then adjusted it whenever the children needed something different. 6 months after the birthday I spent alone, I was making Sunday dinner when the front door opened. "Grandma!" Tommy shouted. We brought dessert. Emma followed him, holding a bouquet of yellow daisies. "These are for you," she said. "Daddy said yellow is your favorite." I hugged her, and this time she held on tightly. Elliot looked healthier. David stood behind him, still learning where everything belonged in my kitchen. Tommy called Elliot Dad, and David Daddy Dave. The arrangement was unusual, but children are often more adaptable than adults. To Tommy, having two fathers was not a scandal. It was simply his life. One evening, David asked whether he could add Patterson to his name so he and Tommy would share part of our family name without changing Tommy's identity. Elliot agreed immediately. I want him to know that families can be complicated without being broken. David said. That sentence stayed with me. I had spent months believing Meadow destroyed my family. The truth was more complicated. We had mistaken silence for peace, and Elliot had trusted the person closest to him without questioning what was happening around him. We could not recover the lost years, but we could stop losing more. A year later, our family photographs looked different. They were not polished or conventional. In one, Tommy sat on David's shoulders. Emma held my hand. Elliot stood between us, one arm around me and the other around David. No one was standing at the edge anymore. The family Meadow had tried to erase had returned in a more honest form. I used to think my 65th birthday marked the moment I became irrelevant. Now, I understand that it marked the beginning of my return. Meadow wanted to remove me from the story because she believed control depended on silence. She was wrong. The truth did not destroy us. The truth gave us the chance to choose one another freely. Tommy is still my grandson because love is not measured by a laboratory report. Elliot is still his father because parenthood is built through presence, sacrifice, and care. David is now part of our family because biological truth matters too. And I am no longer a ghost in my own life. I am the grandmother who asked questions, the mother who refused to disappear, the woman who learned that being excluded does not mean being powerless. Sometimes the family you lose is the family built on appearances. And sometimes, after the truth comes out, you discover the real family was waiting to be found. Now tell me, if you were Loretta, would you reveal the DNA results immediately, or would you first protect the children and gather more evidence? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story kept you watching, subscribe for more stories about family secrets, betrayal, truth, and second chances.